My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Welcome to I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice.
I have a client who had an audition. The part was a father talking to his transgender son, who was making the transition to, I've made my decision. And it was particularly interesting because the actor I was working with had a child that was doing that. And the scene was the father saying to the child, I don't understand. I thought you were non-binary. And so then the child said, no, I'm a boy. And so I was working with him on the scene, and he said, if I get the part, I have to talk to the writer because this has all sorts of bad information. Okay. And of course, he had been through it. However, the more we worked on the part, he became aware that he was writing a character who was not sympathetic to his child's plight. And I mean, it was really interesting. And I was once again reminded that, they don't write pieces for left-wing liberals that are most of my students. And, it's like very few people say, Republicans, or in Jed's case, conservatives, don't stay in my class very long. But I thought it was so interesting, and it was the first time that I'd really seen the problem of making the part about you, making the part about your life, making the part too much about your relationship to subject matter. And it was kind of an interesting mindfuck for me, especially because that particular subject matter and the fact that my actor had been through that and actually is still going through that with his now son. But it was not how it was being written. It was being written from another point of view. I mean, it was really being written from the point of view of a father who had been very, very understanding about having gender confusion. But then the scene was about the daughter had decided that to go through with it and wanted to have surgery and all of that. And the father didn't understand. And so what we ended up doing is what I ended up saying to him was, so you do understand you're an actor, you're a liberal, and this is not about an actor that's a liberal. And so it's a matter of really sitting there and saying, my connection to this material is not this experience. And I've been through it. So now what I understand, it is the experience of somebody else. And it's the experience of somebody else who's not as sophisticated as I am. But you see what I mean? It's like you're talking it out. And the talking out then becomes, so I have to think of this character. I have to think of this situation. I have to think of this circumstance from the point of view of somebody who hasn't been around it. From this point of view of somebody who, he has the line, I thought you were just non-binary. And so when we worked on it, I said, my guess is this guy that you're auditioning for could accept the term non-binary. You know, I made the choice. I said, non-binary doesn't sound so scary. And I said, but the fact that he now wants to commit, I said, is difficult. And I said to him, I mean, look who you are. Look who the people you know are. I mean, look, I said, even look at the school your kid went to. I said, your kid went to a private school. And the private school, when he said to people he was non-binary, everybody was like, wow, cool. You know, I mean, it's like, it's a whole different thing. And I said, that's not this play. But you see what I mean? And so it's like you talk it out, you wander through it, you go through it, you figure out what the material is. And then you figure out your relationship to it. I mean, I have to say, it was the most fabulous example I have ever had of somebody wanting to use their own life and realizing that they couldn't use their own life, even though it was this material. Because it's such an unusual subject matter. He still couldn't use his life. You know, we forget. We think we think, oh, I can relate to that. I went through the same thing, but you didn't. It made me realize, once again, something that I know, but kind of distantly intellectually, that plays are about ordinary people. Plays are not about us. That's kind of an important thing to realize. Plays are about people who, Paul, that Nicola's working on, is, yes, he's well educated. Yes, he probably went to private school, but he's just a guy. You know, this is not Sunday in the Park with George, where we're talking about George Seurat, you know, and going through the complicated life of an artist. These are real people. And I use that word with air quotes around it, but it implies that we are not, and we're not. You know, you can keep that little note in the bottom right-hand corner. Freud analyzed everyone but the artist, wouldn't get near them. And that's why, because it doesn't make sense. So, I mean, you know, but it was a reminder. I thought this is, if these plays work, it is because we understand that these are plays about these people. It is really important for us to understand that we are like the people in the audience. I mean, we're like the people, our characters, not us, our characters are like, we're nothing like the people in the audience. Sorry. But let me make that absolutely clear. But our characters and the plays are about people. And that is the reason there is really no such thing as a museum piece when it comes to a play. Because it's about a human being. I mean, you know, a lot of people say, oh, yes, we're not going to do this. I mean, Christos is from Athens. The first theater, of course, was Greek theater. And so maybe we're not going to have a messenger speech when Agamemnon returns from the war. But nonetheless, ever since the 1800s, the people on stage were like the people in the audience. And the plays were about a big idea that affected these people. Well, it tells you a lot what we have to do. We have to know a lot. We have to know a lot about ideas. We have to know a lot about themes. And we can work these into any of these exercises. I can add something to all of this and lift it. Do you think, have you ever considered, Nikki, or maybe we talked about it so it doesn't count, that you're playing a character who is just an ordinary woman?
I thought about it last week, probably for the first time, but yeah, I guess you always think of them as ordinary because actually the circumstances in the play are pretty ordinary, right? Like, we're not finding her in really extraordinary circumstances here.
Well, in an odd sense, though, I love the idea of an ordinary person in extraordinary circumstances of the soul, you know, and that's what I think is that, you know, she was the first woman of color in the suffragette movement.
Yeah.
I mean, and so you sort of sit back and you think to yourself, I mean, to me, I look at it and think, you know, it's like Joan of Arc. You know, yeah. the whole Joan of Arc story is just like voices came to her and she led the French against the English at Orleans. But I mean, it came to her that this wasn't right.
Yeah.
And she was an ordinary person, like Rosa Parks. You know, this isn't right. But you see, but you see, I mean, that's the size of an idea. One of the many movies I didn't get on was a movie about women being sold into sexual slavery from the former Soviet Union. And I was doing a lot of research. And one of the people I'd done research with had gone undercover with a camera to a place in Tel Aviv where you could buy women. And so he went in. And so when I finally found him, he was in like Siberia, and he was posing as a buyer of tiger skins because he was trying to bust up a ring of tiger skin, people with tiger skin. Sweetest guy ever. I never met him in person. It was a phone call. This is back before FaceTime even. And so, and I said to him, I'm sorry, I just have to ask you something. Why do you do this? And he said, because it's not right. And I went, I mean, I was blown away. I couldn't believe I didn't get that movie on. But it was not right. And I thought, my God, there are people in the world who act because something is not right. But the more that I do it, the more that I talk it out, the more that I allow myself to wander around, I start to find stuff.
I Don't Need an Acting Class is hosted and created by Milton Justice. Senior producer is me, Walker Vreeland. Director of online media is Evan Solers. And music by Shagoi. This is a free podcast, and we want to keep it that way. All we ask is if the podcast has spoken to you, if it's helped you or inspired you, all we ask is that you write a review for us on Apple Podcasts. I Don't Need an Acting Class is brought to you by weaudition.com, a full-service online platform for actors. Sign up today and get 25% off when you use the code ACTINGClass. Again, the website is called weaudition.com. Thanks for coming back and joining us for the 7th season, and we'll see you back here next week.